This video is for you if you've probably lost money in crypto or you're not making as much as you think you should. And I'm going to tell you something that might be hard to hear. The problem is not the market. The problem is not just the coins. The problem is you, your emotions, your reactions, how you react when things go up and how you react when things go crazy. So in this video, I'm gonna tell you exactly what I learned for 9 years in this game, and in this video, I'm going to show everything. For everyone new, I'm CryptoGit, made over 5,000 attacks in my journey, and now I'm documenting everything online on YouTube so people can learn more. So let's directly jump on it. The first thing that you gotta understand, which is a very big thing about the mindset that you need to have in order to win in this game, is believing or something and having the vision to see the future. Now, what you need to understand, what separates the people that are real successful and the people that just make some money, they live, or they make it and they lose it back on the bear market, is this thing that I'm going to tell you something. The people that got here, like the smartest mind in crypto, they really believed on the coins that they held. They didn't buy something just because they thought like, yeah, I'm going to invest, who cares if it goes up, if it goes down, then it's just an investment. This kind of mentality is what most people have, but this is not the mentality that will push you to the biggest gains and will provide you the biggest wealth in this industry. Those minds here, the founder of Coinbase, founder of Gemini, One Exchange, and CZ, the founder of Binance, they didn't get here by just actually sowing Bitcoin, suddenly investing some money, and then they just forget about it. They didn't even care, and that's how they got rich. No, they dedicated this time in the space for so long. They became so passionate about it. They thought it would change the world, and it did. And then they build on it. So most of you right now might ask yourself, like, how I'm actually going to believe on something, right? Because I can't believe on something that I'm not sure is gonna work, right? That's totally normal, because believing on something, like having the true belief that that coin would work and would succeed, would never come if you don't do the proper research. Like, if you don't do the proper research, that will never happen. Like, the research always is the most important part, because you have to understand of something. The people here actually did a proper research in the early days on Bitcoin. They couldn't love Bitcoin suddenly, and they couldn't say that, yeah, Bitcoin is going to change the future without them dedicating hours and going in depth mode on researching everything about Bitcoin. The reality of the crypto people is that they spend just a few hours or maybe a week, they find the coin, and then that's it. You really believe you're going to make wealth by doing that thing? Like, be honest with yourself. Like, do you really believe you can make wealth by dedicating, I don't know, like even 2 weeks of research? That's what 90% of people do. And I'm honest, because I've been there, I've done those mistakes. I'm no special than you. Like, I'm telling you what worked for me, but I've been and I've done those things. Like, I had period of my time in crypto that I researched a coin for even a week, just 2-3 hours a day. And then I decided, yeah, it's gonna be big. You really believe you're going to make wealth that way? It's like saying, I want to build a business, but I want to spend 2 weeks and I know it's going to work out. I mean, what are the chances that that happens? So in order to actually create this thing, you got to be obsessed and spend a lot of time researching the coin. You need to have the coin and know everything about the coin in depth. The reality of how people operate is that the majority of people in crypto, they just know the basics of what they hold. What is the use case? What is the utility? Who is the founder? Tokenomics, like the basic information. But you need to know all the in-depth stuff. Like, if someone asks you a question about the coins that you hold, and you can't have the reply on that, and you don't know that, that's not something that you have to do. What you have to do is you have to do the proper research, right? So what I mean with that, the mindset of a person who is a true believer is completely with the mindset that comes from someone that just invests there and they just care to make some money. Don't get me wrong, those people can make money, but it's a difference between the ones who win the biggest and keep also money. Because have you heard how many stories you have in crypto? Like, I know this guy that made this well, but you don't know much stories. I know this guy that made this well and he kept it. Like, the majority of stories in crypto is like this. They go like this, and then they slowly lose everything. Like, they go on a roller coaster. That's kind of the issue on what happens on average. So here's what's something that most people don't get with an example. The thing with crypto is that if you have the mentality of a non-believer or someone that just invests and they just care to make some quick money in short term, they will probably just look to actually sell once something breaks, right? So for example, if you buy a coin today and the coin is going up, you did some research, it's pretty well, right? It feels good here. But if something happens at this time, right? At this time, and the coin goes a bit down here, and there's a problem at all this time, the non-believer, the person that actually hasn't done the proper research, would be the first to sell. So here they sell. But what happens next is this thing here. So what happens next? Everything goes to the moon. So here's what happened with Bitcoin and Ethereum. It's not me saying that, and let me go with example. I'm quite sure that the majority of you guys watching the video don't know that Bitcoin had almost 2 inflation bugs. You can Google, ask AI, do whatever you want, but Bitcoin had 2 inflation bugs, meaning that it could have been hacked. One Bitcoin bug was so crazy that one of the Bitcoin Cash developers could mint 184 billion Bitcoin. Can you imagine how crazy that is? They would mint more money than that. But the Bitcoin Cash developer catch the problem with the code and they closed it. But you know what happened at the time? The majority of people that were on Bitcoin on the early days, at the first they saw this news, because this news was so huge. Like, imagine the coin that you thought is going to change the world just getting hacked almost 2 times. It went like this, then this thing happened. You know what non-believers or people that didn't do the proper research did? They just sold it here. But what happened next was just history. The issue is that the people that were non-believers, they got out here because they didn't have the vision to see how this problem would be fixed. They didn't have the vision to see how those developers would fix that problems, and they didn't believe that thing would be recovering. So you see the difference between someone believing and doing the proper research versus someone that just invests on a coin just because they want to make some money. The difference is that the believer, the true believer, will always think about how they're gonna help to fix this problem, or they're gonna think about how this thing would go into the future and what would happen with that. They're not looking to sell here. They're looking to find a solution because they are believers on the coin. While the non-believer, the person that just invests about something, they're just gonna dump it here. Same happened with Ethereum. Ethereum on the early days, it got a DAO hack. It was so crazy that Ethereum had to roll back the chain. This happened in the early days of Ethereum. So the people that bought Ethereum on the early days and just bought it because it was a speculative investment, they never made wealth because they sold on the first problem that came and they couldn't understand how that would be fixed. So the difference between the believers and non-believers is that believers see solutions. Believers see solutions. Non-believers see only constant problems. You see why it's so important? That's the difference you gotta understand. Believers think always about the solutions and how that thing can be fixed, or what would be the reaction. The non-believer thinks about, oh, it's bad, I'm gonna crash and sell, it's over, right? So as I said, you get only that mindset by doing the proper research, and it's not like a perfect formula. Like, I'm not telling you go and be dumb, research something and be like, yeah, I believe on it. I'm not saying in a way that works is if you do the proper research and you truly believe that, you become obsessed with it. That's how you make the most money. And in order to do that, I have a simple rule which I've shared even before, but it's so important. Treat every coin you buy like a new business you open. By doing that, your research process will get more focused and more selective on actually what you do. You're not going to research 20 coins, you're not going to spend your time reading 20 articles, you're just going to narrow down your focus in one thing. And when you narrow down your focus in one thing, you see also real issues, you see also real problems, and you see also where is potential, because you can't find the potential, the real issues by spending 1 hour a day in one coin, tomorrow another hour in one day in another coin, and every day research something new. That's not how you do it. You do it by picking the right stuff and being obsessed with it and spending a long time in order to understand it. So that's the very key concept to understand. And I get that there are a ton of coins. You might ask how I'm going to do that. Everything comes down to the process of how you do the research, which again, I got multiple videos in my YouTube which you can actually find a lot, which I tell you how to do it, so I'm not gonna jump on that thing. The next thing that is very important and you need to understand is that when you're early, the doubts, the questions in your head are all normal. This is something that most people, because this is correlated with the first one, this is something that most people don't get. The moment that they doubt something, the moment that they actually feel like they have too many questions that they can't answer in their head, they just sell. But you have to realize that if you're early on a coin, you can't remove that thing, but approach it. So the inexperienced investor, or the investor that is early on something here, for example, if someone inexperienced discover a coin at this stage, you know how he thinks? He thinks like, yeah, this coin just launched. I don't know if it's gonna work. I know use case is good, but I don't know if it's gonna work. So I rather choose something that is safe rather than this thing. So they just go and buy Bitcoin, right? Because it feels safe. They don't like to have doubts and questions. But if you actually want to make wealth, you have to understand this is totally normal. Like no one here at this stage, sorry for this, no one here at this stage, none of those guys actually on the early days actually have the mindset that, yeah, it will work out 100%. In the early days, of course, they doubt it. Like the first research process starts with doubt, right? You can't actually remove doubt on a new investment. Even new business that you open, yes, you can believe it will be amazing, but there's still an element of doubt and there's still an element of questions that you might not have answered in your head. Like the questions that you have in your head in crypto unanswered are more than any entrepreneurship, stocks, or business. Why? Because it's a new space. There are completely new regulations, new rules, and new things happening every single day. So understand it's all normal. Now, like the people, what they do is, as I said even earlier, how people remove this, jumping on big coins, because they completely remove this kind of questions and doubt, buying what others say, because if you buy, for example, what others are buying, like Bitcoin today, it feels safe. Like you have the collective mindset agreeing with you. You have all the people agreeing with you. If you go against the crowd, you feel like, I don't know, I'm looking like I'm going against the world, and you keep doing what they're doing. But that's not how you make wealth. The people that made wealth were the ones that actually were early on something and understood that doubt and questions will always be on their head. Like, for example, the people that believed on those coins, they had a crazy conviction about believing on the future. Like, for example, the idea of actually being early is that you're always doubting, you'll all have questions. But if you do the proper research, you can create a vision to actually see the future. So here's what I'm going to explain so you can understand it better. Imagine if you're an early investor on the Bitcoin in the early days, right? Imagine in 2015, like Bitcoin almost got hacked. Bitcoin had problems. You got all the financial gurus and all the people in the economy at that time telling you that actually Bitcoin is worthless, it's a Ponzi, it's a scam. So those guys were here against the world. Like imagine how many doubts and how many questions they had in their head, but still they understood that was normal. They still understood that that's what happens when you're early, and still by having those doubts and questions, they still had the vision to focus on how the future could be for Bitcoin. Like imagine if those guys, and they did it, they said to people in 2015, Bitcoin will replace USD or Bitcoin will replace banks. They laughed at them. All the finance guys laughed at them. They thought it's never going to happen. Your internet bullshit coin is never going to replace it. They said institutions will jump here. They laughed at those guys. They said that no institution will buy this thing. But you see how they had the vision since 2015 when no one could see that working, when no one could see Bitcoin coming. And today, all those things came true. Banks are all adopting stable coins. Institutions with trillions of dollars are here. BlackRock ETF is the most successful ETF. They were right because they did the proper research. They actually believed on that thing. And at the beginning, they had to go all the doubts, questions, and all the negativity of being early. Like you have to understand that most people, when they have doubt questions, they run away because they want all their math, or their puzzle solved. But if you solve all the puzzle, it means you're late, because you solved all the puzzle today on Bitcoin. You know Bitcoin is here, you know stable coins are the future, but are you early? Can you make wealth? No, because today you have all answers in your head. But in the early days you have doubt, you have questions that you probably couldn't answer, or you have this element of fear. But that's what it takes to go through and understand that when you're early on a coin, you'll always go through this. You shouldn't run away if you feel this for the coins that you have. You should embrace it, approach it, and understand it's all normal, and understand that that's an opportunity. And as I said, everything that I mentioned here, it's a mindset lesson. But everything here also comes down to how long the time on your research is, how much time you spend on researching the stuff that you have, and how good you know the stuff that you have, which you need to apply the rule that I told you, one coin, one business. Before we continue, I want to quickly mention something valuable. I run a free Telegram channel where I post daily insights, in-depth market breakdowns, and things that I can cover freely on Instagram and my YouTube. It's 100% free, no hidden stuff, just pure knowledge and updates to keep you ahead of the curve. You can find the link below or pinned comment if you'd like to join. It's all free, and let's get back to the video. The next thing you need to understand is that every panic sell is a gift to someone with more patience than you. So what you have to realize is that when the price is going down, no matter how much you're going to research something, you'll always have that fear of actually the coin ever recovering. And that's what happened with Amazon. Amazon in 2000, just to let you know, dipped over 95%. The chart was terrible. Everyone thought it was over. Everyone said here Jeff Bezos is a scam, Amazon is a scam, we're just lost all our money. But you know what happened at the time? At all this time that the stock was going down, Amazon was only growing fundamentally. Economics were better, fundamentals were better. Jeff Bezos even said that the business and customers' perspective, you can check in his interviews, is doing amazing. It's just the dot-com bubble crash that kind of actually affected Amazon. But people at this time, you think they cared about business and fundamentals? Of course not. Why? Because of the big collapse that happened. Like green candles make people overreact and make people euphoric. Red candles like this one make people lose their mind and only seek safety. They don't care about what is the fundamentals if you bring them red candles. They completely lose the logic. They just enter the emotion state of fear. So why is that important? That is very important because when thing is going down, fear takes you over and makes you blind to the opportunity. That's what happened with Amazon. The people that actually were on Amazon here at this time, they couldn't see opportunity. They couldn't see that Amazon was only growing fundamentally and doing great. Why? Because fear took over them. They completely didn't care, or even if they saw that business and fundamentals are doing great, they still couldn't believe on it, right? Because they have been so much through pain. And I would say this thing, 80% of people's actions are based on what they have been through. Just so you understand this thing, because it's such an important element. So if, for example, in this cycle, most people have been only through the basically the downside. So the majority of them will never believe that altcoins will recover. And it's totally normal, right? That's how it feels. But you have to realize that if you allow those feelings of the past to influence your decision in the present, you're going to mess up the future. Because that's what happened with Amazon. A lot of people here thought it was over, Amazon will never recover, and guess what? It was the best buying opportunity of a lifetime. Amazon only went to the moon. And same happens to price going up. Something you gotta realize here is that when things goes up, euphoria and greed takes you over, and it makes you blind to the problems. So when things go down, fear takes you over and makes you blind to the opportunity. You don't want to buy something because you'll be like, yeah, it's so bad, I've been only through pain and I'm not gonna do this. When there's things going up and there's, let's say, an issue with a certain coin, you still don't tend to pay attention to it. Why? Because euphoria, greeds take you over. You have all their friends making money, everyone is talking about how they're going to spend that money, how many properties they'll buy, what vacations they'll go, and you'll feel always around this bubble of just euphoria and greed, and you'll feel like a small fish. You'll always think about how I can make more, how I can invest more here so I catch my friends, how I can invest more here when I catch others. Like I remember in 2021, a lot of people didn't sell at the top, and I told everyone to sell at the time. Maybe you can check my call on my YouTube just to let you know. Now, many people didn't sell at the time because euphoria and greed took them over. They couldn't see the problems. They couldn't see that Fed was probably very soon going to raise the interest rates because inflation was going high. Even if they thought about that, or even if someone like me told them that thing, you know what they said? Oh, you're stupid, we're making so much money, I don't trust you. Like when I told people to sell in 2021 at the top, they didn't believe on it. They only showed hate to me because I looked like the person that I'm destroying their dreams. I looked like the person I'm entering the party and destroying everything. They couldn't trust me because 80% of people were in this euphoria and greed. But that's a very big mistake, because as I said, you need to create the ability to see problems when things go up and opportunity when things go down. Now, don't get me wrong, there are coins that go down and they're bad in fundamentals and they're completely destroyed. It doesn't mean that you should buy that because fear took you over. No, that's stupid. But same for the upside. You shouldn't sell your coin just because euphoria and greed took over and there's zero issues with the market, etc. If fundamentals, if something is breaking and euphoria is here and greed is here, that's a red flag. That's when you need to pay attention. Same for the downside. If nothing has changed, for example, for the coins that you have, fundamentals are great, everything is great, it's just the market that is down, that's an opportunity. You shouldn't be blind to actually what's going bad. Like for the majority of people at the current moment, they actually try to blame the coins they hold. Of course, some people hold also bad coins, don't get me wrong, but some people don't understand that it's also about just the time. We need, for example, ETH to go up. It's not just a certain altcoin with a problem. As I said, this is not a black or white. Every coin has different mechanisms, problems, issues, fundamentals that are strong. But again, this is a very big concept you need to understand. You need to create the ability to see problems when things go up and actually see the opportunity when things go down. You shouldn't just let the price influence you. If you let the price influence you, you're never gonna be early on something. You're never gonna buy at the right time the best opportunities, and you're never gonna get out at the right time. It's a very important thing you need to know. One of the other things which is quite important, and my whole investing game has been all about this, is about contrarian investing. Contrarian investing is key, because in a world where 80% of thing is fake, you think like having the mentality of people that react on the same way will allow you to win. For example, let me tell you something. The reason why a lot of people fail and struggle to succeed is because they learn on the same places. They learn from the same influencers, they read the same articles, they read the same Google articles, and they think and act exactly like the crowd. But as I said, in a world where, let's say, 1% or 10% controls everything, do you really think like you need to consume the content that 90% consume to succeed that game, or do something different? That's what most people don't get. And here are some facts which you can't argue, because these are facts. It's not me saying that. 90% of traders lose all their money. 10% are profitable, and out of 10%, only a small percentage succeed in 5 years. So number is probably 1% or something less, which is so small. And the other fact is that 90% of influencers in this space have the business model that they get paid to promote something. So their way of making money is using you as an exit liquidity for people that they have money to promote something. Now, here's why this is so important, because if you understand the scheme of the game, or how the game works, you can see how to navigate through it, how to move through it. So I've been in this space for 9 years. I know a lot of influencers, I know all the in-depth games they use, and I'll tell you something which is quite important. You think like the biggest, most important entities are these guys here, influencers, because they influence you, they tell you what to do, they tell you this is the right coin, right? That's how it happens. It's easy to find those guys because they push mass content on actually social media here. They have all the viral algorithm, they promote their lavish lifestyle, TikTok, IG, and all this kind of stuff, and this gets audience. So what happens is that the majority of people only see those guys here. Like, these are the guys being promoted online, right? But the issue is that these are not the most important people. These are the people that are there to influence you. These are not the people that actually have the true knowledge. Again, I'm talking about 90%. Of course, there are 10% and there are people that are good. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying everyone is bad. I'm just talking about what what the masses do. What most people don't get is that the big dogs, and I call them like that, are the people that control the narratives. The people that control the narratives are exchanges like Coinbase, Binance, Bitfinex, Bitstamp, like all those guys here. Those guys here play the rules. Why? Because they have the biggest exchanges, they have the biggest companies that are in billions, and they make all the money. If you check, for example, only Tether stablecoin, I think last year made $5 billion with less than 100 employees. Can you imagine how crazy that is? Like, your influencers are not making 5 billion a year. Of course, they're sharing all these stupid cars and all this bullshit that they do, but the ones making the money are those guys here. The ones making the money are always behind the scenes that you'll never see. You'll never probably imagine. It's companies here. Those are the ones that control the narrative. So what happens is that these are the big dogs. The issue is that most people fall for those guys, but those guys are there to actually just push a narrative, promote something, lead you to a certain way of thinking. And those big dogs actually can control those guys. And anyone, honestly, with money can control those guys. If I want tomorrow, I can go to, let's say, a marketing company, or I can have, let's say, a direct connection with those. I can message them, and then I can share a coin, or let's say Bitcoin is going to zero, or I'm gonna hit a competitor with a bad article. That's what a lot of coins do. Like, for example, if you are on X coin, a lot of other coins pay for marketing companies to tell influencers that your coin is going down. This happens in mass. The issue is that you here, as a normal person, as a crowd that just started out, you don't get any of this scheme here. Like, you don't even understand how those guys get paid. You think like they're there giving you an honest advice and helping you all, right? You think like, yeah, those guys is so good, he's giving me advice about life, he's telling me do this, do that, that's how I became millionaire. They kind of create this attachment with you that they make you feel like you're worth it. They make you feel like, yeah, I've been there, I've done those things, and that's how the game works. You have to realize up something on the influencers games. I'm going to tell you a secret. No one here at this stage actually does something for free. No one online, keep this in mind, guys, no one online does something for free. And I know a lot of you might not argue, but let me tell you a secret. Would you build a business for free and make zero money? No, right? No one would do that. Like, there's a literally 0% chance to do that. So the people that camouflage themselves like, oh, I'm doing only free stuff, they usually got in the DMs kind of backdoors and connections with marketing companies or certain coins to get promoted. Yes, online they might have free content, they feel like they're doing an amazing job, and you'll be like, yeah, I'm getting a lot of knowledge from them, but you don't get behind the doors what they're doing. Or there are two things, listen to me carefully, there are two kinds of people. The one is having basically backdoors, meaning that they have back deals on DMs that you don't get, that they promote a certain narrative but you don't get it. And the second is they're doing free stuff to absorb, to get audience, so they can do something later. So these are the two types of people that tell you that, oh, I have nothing to sell you. It's a lie, and I'm not here to lie to you. I'm here to show the reality. And a lot of you might be like, oh, but you do the same thing, why I should trust you? I totally agree. I'm not saying I'm the best, I'm not saying I'm the only one, but everything that I've done you can verify. And my business model is simple. All those videos, I want you guys to make the most money ever in crypto. Why? Because I run a community and I help people to continue build their wealth and have my support and create an army of crypto circle that I hang out with the smartest minds inside. That's my goal. Like, I'm not here to lie to you that I'll be like, yeah, do all those videos to help you. Of course I help you. Of course I love to help people. And of course I want you to succeed. But at the end of the day, it's a business model, and I think it's nothing like bad or shameful to promote your work when you're honest about it and when you not do all this bullshit stuff. Like, for example, I could have chosen to get paid to promote a coin. I've never done those. If you've been following me for 6 years in the Instagram and the social media game, I got in my DMs crazy offers and I never did that thing. Why? Because I wanted to build something honest. Like, I wanted to build something that when I started out I didn't have. I wanted to build something that you guys couldn't get manipulated like I got on my early days. Like, I've joined on many groups, on many communities, and I've lost everything to this kind of scheme. So again, I'm not trying to blame influencers. This is a scheme that honestly you need to understand, because no one is going to come and save you. And I went a bit more in depth on this, but it's very important. And now let's go to the contrarian investing. Now that you understand how the scheme works, you gotta realize that 80% of the stuff that people do is kind of fake, or it's kind of not gonna produce results. So how you gotta think and you gotta react is taking the actions of the people, or taking actions that feel like they're wrong. Like, the biggest money at the beginning, it always comes when you feel wrong, right? When you doubt it. Like I said, you remember how I told you even here? Let me remove this. You remember how I told you even here that the people that are early on the early days, they doubted, they have questioned. Those guys were seen like dumb. Imagine you telling the world that in 2015 Bitcoin will replace banks. They laughed at you, right? The collective mindset back then was Bitcoin is a scam. All the finance people told you Bitcoin is Ponzi. Same for Ethereum. All the people on the Ethereum on early days actually were like Bitcoin guys that hated Ethereum. They'd be like, oh, Ethereum is a copycat of Bitcoin. It's never going to work. Ethereum is a dead coin. That's what happens. So you have to realize that if you have the mindset of going against the crowd, you'll be more right than wrong. Now, I'm not saying that just because the crowd does something, go in the opposite way, because that's stupid, but I'm saying that if you see the sentiment, and if the opposite of what the sentiment is makes sense, because it's very important, going against the crowd you'll be more right than wrong. So I'll tell you something. Never be afraid to go against the crowd. Never be afraid to do something that others don't do. I understand that you might feel like you against the world, but that's what it takes to actually make the most money. Like, when I was telling people to buy in 2023 the crypto, you know what people were saying? People were saying, and all the finance guys were saying, like, crypto has never gone up with QT and high interest rates. Like, interest rates are going high. How you can tell people to buy? I was telling here to buy in 2023. They all laughed at my calls. And check the price. Where is Bitcoin from 2023 today? It's only up. So as I said, contrarian investing is key, and you need to understand that if you're early, you have to accept getting debated, people don't liking what you're saying, people doubting what you're saying. That's totally normal, and you gotta go through it. The next thing that is probably one of the most important stuff that you gotta understand too is that you make money by betting on the future, not on the present or the past. The biggest problem with people in crypto is that they actually tend to focus a lot on what happened in the past and what's happening right now. So their ability to see the future gets completely basically blind, because they just look what they have been through or the present, right? That's what I told you before, that 80% of people that I told you here react based on what they have been through. Like, it's very hard, for example, to convince someone that is down for 5 years that market will go up. Same vice versa. It's very hard to convince someone that, let's say, turned $10,000 to $2 million for 2 years and tell them, yeah, market is going to go down. They're going to look at you and laugh and say, what is this stupid guy saying? So let me take you an example so you can understand the difference between the average investors and how smart money operates. So Bitcoin chart went very up on the from the bottom of the last bull run, and then in 2020 in March, I've basically replicated here with a line, but it's not the proper chart, but you get my idea. What happened is that in March 2020, we had the virus, we had the lockdowns worldwide, and that's what crashed Bitcoin a lot. That's the biggest crash that happened in the shortest period of time. Now, what happened at that time? What happened when Bitcoin went down and dumped more than 60% in just 3 weeks? Everyone lost their mind. People, the average people, actually only focus on how I'm gonna survive, how I'm gonna survive for the next few months, how my job, what will happen with my job, like, I don't know, we are not safe, like all the fear took over them, because don't get me wrong, that was such a bad environment, but the difference between you overreacting to the dip and you actually making the wealth is the thoughts that you had at the time. If you thought like the average investors that how I'm going to survive, I better cash out everything as the world was collapsing, you lost the best buying opportunity and you lost at the bottom. Well, what smart money did at the time? Smart money at the time, the institutions, the whales, actually understood that this thing was temporarily. Like the economy couldn't be so bad for such a long period of time, because Fed, central banks, like no one benefits by destroying something. Everyone benefits the most when basically the economy improves. So the smart money knew that Federal Reserve, would do something with the economy. They would likely lower the rates. They would probably do some QE. They understood that they can't allow economy to collapse. And they understood that in the next 6 months or so, everything would be up. But that's what they thought. Like, for example, the difference between the smart money and the investors is that the most investors here only focused on the present, which was so bad, they affected their life, their jobs, and the past. Like here it was mostly about the present because it was so bad. So they couldn't even think about Fed doing something or invest. Like you couldn't tell those people that actually were focused on survival to invest. Even the ones that had money in crypto, they'd be like, yeah, I don't know what's going to happen with my job, so I better cash out. And what they did is they chased safety. But at that time, what needs to be chased is you need to actually do what smart money did. They focused on calculated risks based on critical thinking. And the majority of people, when black swans occurs or something bad occurs, they lose completely the ability to think properly, analyze, think properly. They just focus on emotions, how bad things are. They just see all their friends trying to find the survival mode, how they think. Everyone thinks it's bad. Like see, for example, right now we are in the conflict between US and Iran. Everyone is telling you how bad this is. Everyone is telling you how oil will be destroyed. No one is telling you how smart money can position. No one is telling you that Fed can later incentivize the economy by doing some form of QE, printing money, or lowering the rates like they did in 2020, because they're all so focused on what's going on bad right now. But you don't make money by betting on what's going on right now. You make money by betting on the future. You gotta always think when something bad occurs, your minds need to always not just think about what's going on right now. Here, when things are down, you gotta think about what would be the reaction, what would be in the future, what can happen, why it can happen. And I get that it's hard to actually have this kind of approach or mentality, because these are all questions. Like here, when you say what can happen, how Fed can do it, you might be like, yeah, I don't know if that's going to do it, because here you have uncertainty. You don't know if that's going to work. Well, if you sell something, at least you seek safety, and safety meant that at least you have some money. When things are down, you'd be like, let's say you had $1 million, today you have, let's say, 500K. You'd be like, man, it's 500K. I better take this out rather than what if it goes to 10, right? That's how you think when things are down. While the proper investor here, when it has 500K, either puts more based on this or just leaves that 500K because they have the ability to hodl and they think on the future, what Fed could do, what would be the reaction, how that thing would change, like what is the upside for the let's say for the government to keep things crashing. These are all things that are uncertain. These are things that you might not have all the proper answers in your head, but that's how you make money. Again, you don't make money by betting on what's going on. Like the guys here, hear me out, The guys here didn't make money by betting on Bitcoin when it was having problems. Like here, Bitcoin was the worst. They made money because they understood the problem was temporarily, and they understood that Bitcoin could change the world and the banks. That's the vision that they had. They focused on the future, not how bad the current environment was. Same for Ethereum. The people that survived this hack on Ethereum, they understood that Ethereum can change completely the world of DeFi and create a new financial technology via smart contracts. They actually bet on the future. They had the vision to see the future. They didn't react based on this. So every action you take based on what's going on right now, you should focus critically and have a proper overview about what's next, not what happened. Because as I said, safety is what you love when things go like crazy. But if you want to be early and make the most money, you have to understand that you always have to think about what can change, not just react on what's going on at the moment. That's a very important thing. And you need to train your mindset to think in this way. You need to train your mindset to actually take doubt, take questions in your head, take uncertainty as a normal thing. I'm not saying go and do stupid stuff like, oh, this happened, then this is gonna happen. Of course, this needs to make sense. Of course, you need to actually see, for example, what has occurred in the past. For example, take a look at the virus in 2020. World collapsed, Fed printed money. Take a look today at the US and Iran war. I'm not saying they're going to print money exactly, but even if the crisis gets bigger and we see an energy or oil crisis in the upcoming months and upcoming weeks, I know that it's very likely that Fed will do something, and I'm going to buy, right? And I'm buying even right now. I'm betting into the future. I'm betting on the outcome. I'm betting on what's next. While if an energy crisis come or if big problems with oils come, people will lose their mind and be like, now it's survival mode. I'm going to cash out everything. You see the difference? That's a very important thing to understand.